Hello and welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports and another bike profile. And we also did some service on this bike, so we're going to go through it just a little bit. Now, I know I've got some Cannondale fans out there. I had a CAAD 10. This is a CAAD 8. The gentleman bought it used, so we don't have much history on it. But brought it in for a tune-up, and we did a few things that needed to be done, and then a few things that were just nice to get done. All right, so let's go through it. First thing I want to call your attention to is this Trimax stem. So notice how it has a cover on here. Now that's interesting. I am a FSA Vision dealer, but I've never actually put one of these on a bike. So to ensure that the faceplate is tight, I had to take this off, and of course I had to move this out of the way, the Garmin mount, move that out of the way, and then take that cover off. So pretty slick, but I don't know that that is going to do much for aerodynamics. But the Trimax line, for those that are not aware, that is part of their triathlon or their speed line. So now both of these bolts were loose, one way more than the other. The faceplate bolts were fine, but the two steer bolts here were loose. The front brakes, now obviously we see these wheels here, these Super Team. By the way, make a comment down below if you have a set of these wheels. Now this, as I mentioned, this customer bought the bike used, so the wheels came with it. But here you go, everything matches, right? The black and the red and the white. But if anyone owns these wheels, if someone can tell me, so the front brake has these tan colored brake pads, and the rear has these blue ones. Now, obviously I don't sell these wheels, so I have no idea which brake pads are supposed to be on there. Now, sometimes these blue pads, I find, I am a Reynolds dealer, so these are the pads that I would need for a Reynolds wheel set. So if someone could answer that for me, I really, for safety reasons, want to make sure this customer has the correct brake pads on here so he does not have any rim delam issues. I have smoked a few rims over the years, which is why I don't ride carbon wheels. That has changed dramatically over the years. The resin now can take a much higher temperature, whatever mix they're using. I'm so glad I'm not a wheel manufacturer, because in those days of the early days of carbon clinchers, yeah, those wheels would just melt and or explode. So I remember doing a 200 miler up in the LA area, and folks were coming down Deer Creek, which is really, really steep, double digits most of it, and yeah, some rims kind of delaminated and melted there. So not a good place for that to happen, but it shouldn't happen anymore. So the other thing that we had to do is the rear brake cable was frayed, and the brake feel was very spongy. Now, unfortunately, the people who have done maintenance on this bike before, so this brake fitting is just corroded and seized in there. You can see the corrosion on there. So anytime that I replace cables, or anytime that I use a fitting, dissimilar metal here, because we have an aluminum frame, steel, who knows what we have in these fittings, but I always lube that so that there's no issues with the mechanic. It could be me, but the next mechanic that's going to work on this bike. So the rear one I was able to replace, the front one is seized into the frame. So if you're out there and you're a home mechanic, please use grease as often as possible so that things are easy to remove in the future. There are things that you want to use anti-seize with, but other things you can just use plain lube. The chain and the cassette were dirty. I had a little bit of extra time as far as, just to give you an idea, I usually tell customers that a tune-up is about 1 hour's worth of work. So that includes truing the wheels, adjusting the derailleurs, adjusting the brakes, running through the whole bike, making sure everything is torqued properly, cleaning it, a general wipe down, not extensive cleaning. And, you know, if I have a little bit of extra time in that hour, then I will look for other things. If it takes me a long time to true the wheels, well, then something else might sacrifice. But in this case, I got the wheels trued, had a little bit of extra time, cleaned the drivetrain, and it just depends on what someone uses. And it's always a teaching moment for the customer to be like, listen, once you put lube on the chain, please wipe it off. And they look at you a little funny and they're like, what? What do you mean? And it's like, yes, you put lube on your chain, but then you wipe off the excess. The excess is what attracts dirt and sand and things like that to your bike. So the chain was in good shape. It was just dirty. The front derailleur really needed quite a bit of adjusting. It was, sorry for shading that, but inside it was rubbing on the big chain ring. It was also just too much of a gap. So depending on how you would shift it, it would end up throwing the chain at some point. So got that front derailleur adjusted. The rear was actually pretty good, just needed one little turn on the barrel adjuster. And you know, this bike has the cable adjusters here, and for a long time I didn't used to put them on because I just didn't want to have consumers making adjustments on stuff. Oh, by the way, yeah, the limit screws were way out as well on the rear derailleur. I just remembered, and it almost went into the spokes, but all good there. And as far as, because I know some of you like to know weights and stuff, this bike's fairly heavy for what it is. You know, an aluminum frame is usually fairly light, but I think it was in the 20-pound range, so that seemed a bit high for me. Don't know if it's the wheels or you know, it's a 105 drivetrain. One more thing about the 105 drivetrain. So I believe this is the first iteration of when they went with the hidden cables through here. Now, the 7900 series, which is the 11-speed mechanical, 7970, I'm sorry, it was 10-speed, my bad. 10-speed mechanical, the 7900, that was the first year they hid the cables through here, and because 7800 was 10-speed and they came out of the shifter. Well, that was a terrible, just so much effort that needed to be used to shift the gears. And I believe that is what's going on this one. The big derailleur, I'm sorry, the big lever sweep for the big derailleur, it's very hard. And I mentioned it to the customer, but then I realized, oh yeah, that's right. There was a series that, the first iteration of hiding the cables that made the lever throw so hard to move, the front derailleur anyway. And so it was a very good selling point for anyone who was riding the 7900, that they could ride the 7970 Di2, because look how easy this shifts compared to this. But then 9000 group came out, and then the R9100 group came out, and the shifters were like butter. They finally sorted out the tension and the mechanical advantage so that when you move that front derailleur on your left shifter, it was not an issue anymore. Okay, well, that is all for today. Please like and subscribe. I've got a couple of other videos just waiting to upload them. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you up the road.